Well, hi and welcome to the Healthy Metal Hippie. Today we have Dr. Bob, Dr. G, Mr. Bob Gauthier here with us today. He is coming to us from Boston, Massachusetts, and he is everything that you have dreamed of, really. I lost my train of thought, but you know what? Bob is a facial aesthetics expert. He is a doctor of dentistry. He has had an incredible transformation that we are going to be talking about today. And also, he has his own podcast that you're going to have to check out after if you aren't already. And so many things to come that we're going to talk about today. We've got books, we've got programs, everything. There's a reason everybody around him calls him the champ. So, welcome, Bob. We are so happy to have you here today.
Oh my God, it's my distinct pleasure to come on. And this is my first time doing a podcast across the ocean, right? So this is pretty cool. We're getting to do some fun technology here and bringing, my little podcast studio out overseas. It's fantastic.
Yes, and you know
Thank you
what?
for having me. Thank you for bringing me on. I think this is going to be a fun time.
I think so too. And you know, the thing is, like we were talking about, we're all about real stories. And the thing is, you have inspired so many people around us in our circles that they want to hear your full story. You have
That's
so much
amazing.
insight to share, and people are
That's
really
such a
excited about it.
that's a surreal thing for me, actually. I didn't start out any of that with that in mind, actually, but I do appreciate that has kind of come to fruition, and I want to do the best I can by the story. And if I can inspire some people to make some healthy changes, then that's all the better.
Mm-hmm. And I know you already have, and I know you're going to keep continuing to do so. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? What would you like people to know?
Well, I'm just a regular guy, actually. Past middle age, I guess. And if you think middle age is probably somewhere between 37 and 42, I'm past that. So that's the first thing. Just a regular guy, the father of two incredible young adults, and a significant other, and I have a bonus child at home as well. So that's he's a teenager and going through that whole thing. I'm a facial aesthetics expert, like Ashley just said. I run a cosmetic and full rehabilitative type practice for dentistry in the greater Boston area. I also have a subsection of my practice that's completely dedicated to facial aesthetics. I have a registered nurse on staff that does a lot of our own facial aesthetics, and I do it myself as well. And I've dedicated my career to helping people transform the way they look so they feel better and have better confidence as they present in the world. And I help people fight back the hands of time a little bit, right? And not only that, I help them, become healthy, because your mouth and your teeth, your dentition is the first part of your digestive system. Not only that, you need to have confidence when you smile and speak. And being out of pain is a huge deal for people, right? And preventing and treating pain helps people live a better life. So I've always been in that kind of space. And I've also been a rock and roll fan. And a lot of people don't understand this, or don't know this about me, but I went to music school first, tried to become a rock and roll musician myself, played in a rock band, toured with some pretty big names at times. And yeah, that didn't pan out, and I needed to get a job to make some money. So,
So, you're
so
like a
dentistry it is.
dentist.
So yeah. Very strange, circuitous path, but yeah, nonetheless, it was I got a lot of world experience. Yeah.
But you know what? I guess you help people feel like rock stars. And what we were talking about earlier is really that you are the king of helping people transform their lives. And you've given a lot of yourself to other people's. And so now you took this time over the past several years to start that transformation for yourself in a big, big way. Am I
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you are. So, um, I guess we have to, go back in time a little bit to when I was a young adult and playing in rock bands and trying to, present the best version of myself, so that people would listen to my music, and try to make my way through the Boston music scene, which at one point was actually pretty robust. And I know we have a mutual acquaintance, right, that can corroborate all these stories that I'm telling you. So for sure, he can fill you in on that. But um, Yeah, I was a pretty fit guy, and I was a certified personal trainer. I worked at actually two Gold's gyms at the time, and rode crew, the University of Massachusetts, and was on their first boat. And yeah, I competed at a very high level, and I was an extremely fit individual. And I met my now ex-wife when I was about 20, 21 years old, 22 years old, and and I made a 180 switch. I left college and I went into dental program and ended up really pouring myself into learning and developing my mind, and ended up really pouring myself into that provider role,
Hmm.
and I forgot about taking care of myself. And in doing so, I became like a depressed version of myself because I wasn't fully living the life that I wanted to live. And I ended up packing on better than 200 pounds in about 20 years. And it doesn't all happen overnight. It happens very, very slowly. And, and ultimately, my 18-year marriage ended because my now ex-wife was no longer attracted to me. And she ended up deciding that there were greener pastures elsewhere. Right. And that was a hard time. And that was probably the start of how not too far after that, you and I kind of crossed paths.
Hmm. Exactly. I You're right exactly when you say it doesn't happen overnight, that you have this kind of loss of self, uh, the weight gain, losing connection with who you are fundamentally as a person.
That's 100% right. You hit the nail on the head. That when I went through, I was never really a person who subscribed to getting help from a therapist or anything like that. It was just not in my family's culture. It was, therapy was for people who are crazy. That's
Hmm.
how I was brought up.
Or they're
And
weak.
or weak. Yeah, that's the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And one of the things that I did was my sister actually implored me to go and see a therapist, and I did see a therapist for a year, almost every day after work, 5 days a week, for 1 hour every day, and then I ended up going to a 3 hour group session for children or adults from that experienced childhood trauma, and I did that 3 hours a week for about a year as well, on Fridays. So I did a lot of therapy, and really what I came to find out is I was very depressed, and I ended up with a lack of a sense of self. And those are the two goals, was to kind of gain back my sense of self, and from that the depression kind of started to lift. And one of the ways that I was able to really do that, the therapy just kind of opened my eyes to that.
Hmm.
But what I did was I went back to what used to make me happy, and that was lifting weights and making sure that my body was right. And I went and started getting educated on it. Probably about, what is it? When did Nita Strauss do her first body shred? Do you remember the year?
29,
Was it
19.
19? Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was. And a mutual friend of ours, David, he came into the office one day actually for a regular routine care, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to join this body shred that the guitar player Nita Strauss is doing. You want to join me?" And I think that was his way of trying to save my life, quite frankly. And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And one of the requirements is you had to like take photos with your shirts off, right? If you're a man,
Hmm.
and you take the photos and you send it in. And I remember having a discussion with David and saying, "I don't know if I want to take my shirt off and take pictures, man. Like, I don't know if I want to do that." And so the first shred, I didn't actually put any pictures up, and I joined the private Facebook group, and I watched along, and I kind of got a little bit of movement into my life, and I dedicated some time every week, but I didn't really get a lot of results.
Hmm.
And part of that was because I wasn't doing the routine properly.
Right.
And from then, I started doing some learning again. I started relearning the stuff I had forgotten, right? From being a personal trainer, being a fit person, I got a bunch of books and re-educated myself on all of it. Um,
And so
yeah,
now I'm going to just like back up for one small
yeah, yeah.
step. Was that first body shred the turning point?
No,
Okay.
nope, it was not. And I was actually over 400 pounds at that point.
Right.
Standing at 5'10", that's pretty bad. Like I had a BMI of over 60
Wow.
and a 64-inch waist to boot.
64-inch waist. And
Yep.
what would that be roughly in kilos? Just for
So
people.
times
It's
2.2,
2.2.
divide by 2.2. So
I'm just going to
somewhere
look.
around 200,
Yeah. Let me see
220
here.
kilos, something like that.
Let's see here. Pounds. We'll just say it's 400. So for our listeners in the UK, that's 28 and a half stone. And that would be 181 kilograms.
There you go. Yeah,
So
that sounds about right.
it's, and how tall are you, Bob? Just so people know for reference.
5'10". I don't know what that is in centimeters.
I think we're good with the 5'10", even over here.
Right. Okay.
And so, yeah, but I mean, that's an astonishing amount of weight for somebody to carry around, no matter what height you are, you know?
Yeah. And, people would ask me a lot. They'd say, didn't it hurt, or wasn't there anything? The thing is, you negotiate with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, well, I can still walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
I can still ride in the car. I can still ride on a plane, not comfortably, but I can still ride on a plane. And so it starts like lying to you.
And so, and it's kind of like, do you think too, it's also kind of like, okay, different perspective. Well, I am getting older, or I do have a desk job. It's excuses that people make to themselves to not do something, yeah, or reasoning why it's okay just to let it keep declining in a way. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
It's kind of like that, where people, well, I just as a diet, which we see this often in some of the things that we've done before, and hell, I do it sometimes too, where it's like, I had a sweet in the morning, and you're like, well, fuck it, pardon my French, but fuck it, we're just gonna do it for the rest of the day, and I'll start fresh tomorrow.
Yeah, you know how many times I had to
I'll start tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, every morning I'd get up and I'd go into the bathroom, shut the light off, so when I was walking by the mirror, I wouldn't have to see myself. And I still remember standing in the shower, like, today I'm going to get it together. Today I'm going to get it. That happened for years. For 20 years, that happened. Every single day I had the conversation with myself. And then exactly what you just talked about, I went and I would work my day. I would usually skip breakfast completely.
Yeah.
Subsist on coffee to get myself going. And then at lunchtime, I'd end up going and getting fast food because it was convenient, easy, and it was a nice little like dopamine hit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Fat, and sugar, salt. Here we go.
All of it, right? And then and I would. It started with burger fries in a shake, or burger fries in a soda, and then the fries got to be supersized, and then you end up with 2 sandwiches, and then end up taking in 2,000 calories at lunch alone, right?
Oh, wow.
And then I would come home, and as soon as I got home, I would graze the rest of the night until I would go to bed.
And you didn't really have, pardon me, you didn't really have like a proper evening meal. You just grazed.
Maybe I did, but I would graze for the rest of the night, even around that. So I was easily taking, 4,000 calories a day, easily 5,000 maybe. And I would convince myself that I was eating healthily because I would have salads. Like it's this weird negotiation that you have with yourself all the time.
Or it's like the case even of, well, I had the burger and the fries, but I had a Diet Coke, so
yeah, so it's not so bad, right? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that's the lies that the addiction inside of you kind of tells you to do, and it's really a dopamine addiction at the end of the day. And when you're not happy and you're depressed, you're trying to, and some people resort to alcohol, some people resort to drugs, some people resort to gambling, and for me, the dopamine came with food. And it was really a coping mechanism that it was a symptom of being depressed at the end of the day, and I was depressed over losing myself, right?
Yeah.
And not taking care of my own needs. And then I would also get resentful at myself for having needs. So it was that bad at some points,
Yeah.
But, through the group that, is it all right to say how we met?
Yeah, of course.
So
let's talk about it.
we met through the Nita Strauss Body Shred. You remember that group?
Mm-hmm.
And that group probably saved my life, quite frankly, right? And those guys, I even through Body Shred 2 and 3, I belonged to them, got the T-shirt, would surf on the website, on the Facebook group, and never really post anything ever,
Right.
right? And it wasn't until the intercession between Body Shred 4 and Body Shred 5, that was long. That was about 2 years
Yeah.
between those two.
Yeah, it was a long one.
And there's a side site called the Body Shred Alumni, and I went in there and I said, you know what? Because I really worked hard in Body Shred 4, and
And what did you
reason,
lose? You lost like 50 pounds or
like
something?
50 pounds during Body Shred 4, yeah. But you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell anything because I was so big, like 50 pounds on a 400-pound guy is just okay. He looks a little smaller, but he still looks like a fat guy. Like there's no
right.
It really didn't do anything. But I went and I said, I got some momentum, and I stayed doing it. I kept in that Body Shred alumni group and kept posting as if it was a shred every day. Right?
Yeah.
And then I became afraid that if I'd stop, I'd fall back into old habits, which was that was a tough one to get over. But I worked really hard at staying the course. But really the nightest for it was between Body Shreds 3 and 4, my current relationship started to show signs of, and now I look back and in retrospect, there's new relationship energy and all of that. And I was at a point where my current relationship, started to become normal and it was no longer new. And I interpreted the signs of that as she's losing interest just like the last time.
Right.
And I asked her, I said, because when I had gotten divorced, I had lost about 80 pounds in 2 months, and it was for the wrong reasons. I actually couldn't keep food down. I was just so much nerves. I built a pretty significant business. I didn't know if that was going to be lost. I didn't know if I'd lose my kids,
Mm-hmm.
All the uncertainty in my life at the time caused such a high level anxiety, and the loss of that version of myself, you had to mourn that as well. And,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't lose weight for the right reasons. I actually couldn't keep food down. No matter how hard I tried to eat anything, it just wouldn't stay down. But after that, I was able to attract my current significant other, and everything was great, hunky dory, brand new relationship. Everything was, the pain was, the Novocaine came in and kind of smoothed it over. And then a few years into it, Body Shred 3 shows up. I finished that. Body Shred 4 shows up, and right before it, I had a conversation. I said, "Hey, I've gained back all the weight that I had plus some. From after we met."
Yeah.
I said, "Does it bother you?" And she said, her exact words were, "I love you no matter what." So that was just everything I needed to hear. And it wasn't necessarily what she said. It was also what she didn't say.
Right.
So I could tell it bothered her. And whatever that trigger was that got me to move, I'm grateful for that, because it did get me to move. And that's how I started Body Shred 4 with a little bit more fervor, let's say, right? And because of that and all the studying I had done between Body Shreds 1, 2, and 3, I kind of put it all together and I figured out what I needed to do. I lost 50 pounds, but then, the winner of that Body Shred was, he was a pretty thin guy anyway. And at the end of it, he looked like he came off the cover of a fitness magazine, like literally in 12 weeks. And I was like, man, I worked so hard, lost 50 pounds. I don't look any different. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually asked the guy directly, I said, "What kind of macros are you doing? What kind of workouts are you doing?" He's like, "No, I'm just kind of eating bananas." And like, you couldn't give me a good answer. And I'm like, that didn't sit well with me, actually. Like, I worked so hard and showed almost no result. And that kind of lit the fire under me to go through between Body Shred 4 and 5. And it said, if she doesn't run a number 5, so be it, but at least I'm going to win my life back.
Yeah.
And I started posting just my workouts, and I didn't post pictures of myself. What I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I posted the story that I just kind of laid out about losing my ex-wife and all of that and being a little bit vulnerable. And it was a story about my why, like, why am I doing this? And really, motivation comes and goes. It's a flash in the pan. You need to have that slow burning ember to keep you going when the flash goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I didn't want to feel the pain that I had felt a few years before when my now ex-wife told me we were getting divorced. And I never wanted to feel that again. And that was my compelling reason why. And I shared that with the group, and the outpouring of support was nothing like I've ever seen. So I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it, actually.
That's okay.
But like it was really amazing how they kind of, the wagons kind of, they kind of came around
It's
me
okay.
and cheered me on, and it was amazing. So yeah, so I worked real hard, and then Body Shred 5 came around, and yeah, I said, hold my protein shake. I'm in. Let's go.
Exactly. No beers.
No beers. Yeah, no, absolutely not.
It doesn't fit the macros.
Not at all. Actually, I think I posted something in Body Shred 6 on macros about alcohol for people, because I worked as a contributor on that page because I wasn't competing in it. Obviously, I'd already done what I needed to do there. But yeah, so that was an amazing thing. And I still remember working really hard and trying to stay humble throughout it, and understanding that there was 700-800 competitors in there too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful of very active people, but there's actually 700-800 competitors every time she does this.
Yeah.
And, and I didn't really hold the prize as like this thing like that I had to get, because I'd already proven what I needed to do to myself. But I'm like, yeah, it would be pretty cool to get a guitar. Right.
Everybody needs a guitar. Even if you don't play, everybody needs a guitar.
Right. Not too many of those. But yeah, actually, I had on my show yesterday, I recorded a guitar player, really, he actually is a professor at Berklee College of Music, and he's a great player. And he was saying, we were talking about his guitar collection, and he said, it's like like having shoes. You don't want to wear work boots to a fancy dinner. You have to have a guitar for every type of situation. So
it's true. It's actually, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's got an extensive guitar collection, some ridiculous amount of guitars. So, and we were talking about that, but anyway, that was a little sidetrack, but yeah, so
That's okay.
Yeah, so that was it. I still remember I was taking my daughter on college visits because she was a senior and junior, and it was the summer between junior and senior year, and I was taking her on college visits, and we were at my alma mater, University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in a lecture room with my daughter, and across my phone, I get an email from Nita Strauss that says, "Can I use your pictures?" And I'm like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Okay."
So wait,
sure.
this is in the fifth
Body Shred 5.
Fifth challenge.
At the end of it, and I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks after the challenge ended. We were all like, "When is it coming out? We want to know who won." And literally, I'm sitting in a lecture hall with my daughter. And across my watch, I see the note, Nita Strauss. I'm like, uh-oh. So I opened up my phone, and it was an email asking her to use my photos publicly. And I said, sure. She said, and it said, more later. Like,
okay.
So then a couple hours later, we're sitting in another lecture room, and again, it says, I get a little notification on my watch. And it only tells me the title of the email on my watch. And it says, Body Shred 5 winner announcement.
I remember this because I was out with my son when we got the email, and I think we were getting our hair done actually. And it was like the best news. I know, because I'm part of this group, I know everybody in there was just rallying. Go, Bob, go. Yeah, really cool. And I'm going to let you finish all of that, but I just remember all the people in there being like, if Bob doesn't win, I'm out forever.
Yeah. I can't even put words to the appreciation I have for that group of people. They saved my life, literally.
And, it's a different side of it for me, right? But I would agree on my side that group saved my life as well. When,
maybe I'm going to have you on my show and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at some other time. But I can understand, and we've really built quite a strong community in there.
It's really unbelievable, actually. And And I really hope if Nita sees this podcast that she really understands what she built. Sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like she doesn't fully, she always gives the credit to the people, but without her, it wouldn't have never happened.
Like she built it, the people make it, but it's all
I think that's
thanks
just
to
her
Nita at the
humility.
end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's just her humility at the end of the day, but she really did. She's saving lives, literally. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but yeah, with that, I handed my daughter my phone. I said, I can't look at it. I won't pay attention. She goes, you're not going to pay attention either way, so you might as well look at it. So she opens it and shows it to me. And we're in a lecture room, and I went numb. I literally went numb. It's the silliest thing. And the fact is, I already accomplished what I kind of wanted to accomplish. I had a little
Yeah.
bit of, final touches to do on my body, but I did most of the heavy lifting already. So that was just like the cherry on
Literally.
top. Yeah, right. Yeah. That was the cherry on top of the whole thing. And yeah, that was pretty surreal. And then later, she started emailing me back and forth about the plans because she, part of the prize was flying out to First Form, which was a main sponsor of the challenge, and we flew out to their headquarters. And it's interesting. There was an expert in our group, and her name is Brittany Landers, and
Yeah.
she works at First Form, and she was kind of quiet in the group. She said some things here and there. She was not a competitor. She was just there to answer questions. But she basically came and picked me up at the airport. I get a text from her. She goes, I'm going to be in, whatever Honda, and I'll come pick you up. So I'm waiting outside. She comes and picks me up, and such a warm reception. She's just a great person. And she says, yeah, we're going to go to the next terminal. We got to go pick somebody up. And I'm like, who could we be picking up? Like there was the second place winner was also coming. So I kind of thought it was that person.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, Nita and Josh and Alejandra are on the same flight. So we're going to go pick them up. And I was just like,
Oh.
Nita Strauss is going to be in the car with me. Like, really? That's crazy. So yeah, then we spent the next basically day and a half, 2 days at First Form. They were unbelievable hosts. And when Nita was coming out of the terminal, she had a guitar on her back, in a gig bag. And I literally didn't put two and two together. Like it did not. I'm like, she's coming to play a gig here? Like, is she going to play for First Form? Like, what's going on, right? And she comes out, I get out of the car, we greet them, and she embraced me, gives me a big hug. She goes, don't look at my back. Like, okay. So then it still didn't register. I was just in awe of the whole situation. I was like, this is very surreal. And I spent some really cool time talking with her and Josh. And since I've become friends with Brittany, and I helped Nita with this latest round of Body Shred as a contributor on the Body Shred Facebook group. And I was challenged by Brittany to go live every day, and I did my best, but to give some mental nutrition, some nuggets, and that's been really nice. And we just finished up our Body Shred 6, and I'm really excited to see who's going to win. I think it's going to be a fun time seeing it from this side of it, and cheering those people on.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
That's the story of Body Shred in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more details, but I just basically gave you the Cliff Notes version of it.
Yeah, but it's amazing. And so Bob is currently training to be in a bodybuilding competition for the, can I say it, over 50?
Yeah, go ahead. yeah, Masters Division.
Yeah.
It's a transformation contest at a bodybuilding show. And I'm currently slated to go April 12th. It's going to be held at Mohegan Sun, which is it's in Connecticut. It's a casino, but it has a big arena, and it'll be held in one of those venues. Either one of I think it's in a theater. It's actually not in the arena. But yeah, right. It's basically a transformation show where you do. They put up a video of you beforehand and like a video montage of pictures of you before, and then you get up and you do the traditional bodybuilding poses and all of that, and
right.
They choose a winner. And I also am planning on competing in the classic physique category in the masters division, which is basically your traditional kind of bodybuilding competition.
So cool.
And
I
that's going to
mean,
be that'll be the cherry on top. And then from there, I'm going to just work on impact and helping other
right.
people achieve it. So,
Yeah. I mean, and this is the biggest thing is I think your story gives so much hope to people that there is a way out. It takes work, it takes dedication, it takes, all the effort, the right mindset. There's a whole bunch that goes into it, but there's hope there, and I think that's one of the biggest things that you provided to people in the shred group, but not just in shred, but in your everyday life and making an impact on your community and the people around you.
yeah, that's what I hope. When I was going through it and before I really delved into all of this, I went to my physicians. I got the help of a nutritionist, trainers, and all that. But the fact of the matter is, and I worked with a therapist, all these
Hmm.
things, nobody had the answers, nobody had gone through this. They may have had, you know, um, explicit knowledge, right?
Yeah.
But there's implicit knowledge of actually doing it, and I didn't know anyone who's actually done it, and it's without surgery, without drugs. It's just really just understanding what your body needs from nutrition and training standpoint, and really learning to care for yourself and take
Hmm.
care of yourself like you're taking care of a very good friend.
Yeah.
And really, that was the key to it all. And I hope by getting this message out and kind of propelling um, the message that you can do it, and I hope I do create hope, and I hope I can get people to be confident in themselves, to be able to show up for themselves every single day and get it done.
Hmm.
And with that, I've partnered with First Form as well,
And so,
and
do
that
you want to just tell people a little bit about First Form,
oh yeah,
who
sure.
they are?
So they're a supplement company. I actually think they're more of an education company than a supplement company. They just happen to
Right.
sell supplements, but they educate. They have an app that will help you with planning your macros, planning your meals. There's a coach involved that's dedicated to you that helps you achieve your goals that you're trying to do. They run challenges quarterly, um, and they're pretty significant prizes. $25,000 prizes um, each quarter. And then I think they just started a partner division. So like you and a partner can do it and you split the winning as
Cool.
well. And at the end of the year, they give away a $50,000 prize for the year long winner, which is
Wow.
it's called the lifestyle winner. So whatever person did the best in that period of time, that's who won or who will win. So it's pretty cool, and it inspired me to maybe do that with my people here. So my place of business, I employ about 10 people, and they have their significant others. And I should probably back up. Before the pandemic, I had you know multiple locations. I had commercial buildings. I employed over 50 people because I had to abide by all these over 50 employees rules that the government puts out.
Hmm.
And I decided I wasn't happy doing that, and I shredded all of that as well. So it's a shred in my whole life, and getting simpler everywhere. But
Cool.
anyhow, so I partnered up with First Form, and we did a challenge at my business with the significant others and my employees,
Hmm.
um, concurrent with the First Form and Body Shred. Kind of, they all were happening at the same time,
Yeah.
and we used the app, the First Form app, and uh, the person who's winning this challenge within our group gets a
Hmm.
$5,000 prize, and they're also entered into the First Form prize as well. So
That's
they could
so cool.
potentially win, $30,000 if just by doing something and getting their body right. And we collectively as a group, this group lost north of 100 pounds in 8 weeks collectively.
Wow.
They
That's a
had they really
lot.
brought it, and now they're all you know out there,
Amped.
helping people do it too. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. And, I know the winner. I have not releasing it yet. We're having a party to do the release. So I know who the winner is. And it's been just phenomenal to be able to have that kind of impact with my staff and my families that are here. And, come this spring, with the First Form Spring Challenge, I'm going to open it to my entire patient base. So that's 12,000 people that are going to be offered to come into this challenge, and we're going to see if we can build it a little bit more.
Yeah, you're going to start scaling it up.
Yeah, that's what we're going to try to do. So it's about impact for me and about making positive change, having real people get real results over the long term.
So if you have somebody come to you and they're like, you know what, Bob, I was really inspired by your story and I want to get started. I need to figure out what my why is. How do you help people find their why? What would be the steps? What's the process?
Yeah, so that's really, everybody's why is a little individual, right?
Of course.
It's going to be different than mine. And
yeah.
The biggest thing is I tend to tell people, what would be the worst possible thing that you could see happening to yourself that you could prevent? Right? So that might be the pain from getting a divorce. You want to prevent that. The pain from not being able to walk a child down the aisle when it's time for them to, because these are the things you hear, right?
Yeah.
I want to be there for my grandkids, right? So what would be the most terrible things? You're not there for your grandkids.
And do you think then you need to, so say it's for my grandkids, okay?
Yep.
How deep do you suggest that people go? Does it mean that, you want to really, really define that it's not just be there for my grandkids,
Correct.
right?
It's
I want to be able to get on the floor and play with them and carry them around and give them piggyback rides and race them in the park
but also,
things like that.
Also, what would it be like if you couldn't do that?
Right.
And feel that. So yes, I understand the positive part. Like, I want to be able to do. Okay, that's cool. But that's not compelling. Right? We as humans need to have, for compelling reasons, we need to feel like there's some sort of, at least it was for me and the people.
There's a risk. Yeah.
You have to have some risk of loss of some kind to really motivate somebody, to really compel them when they're hurting and don't want to do it. Why are they doing it? And that's because I don't want to not be able to work out with get on the floor with my grandkids.
Right.
One of the things that I did, one of the things that I did, and you can't see it in the camera, but up on the wall here is I got recertified as a personal trainer and a nutrition coach as well. So like, it kind of gives some legitimacy to some of this. And what was interesting is it was super easy to pass it this time. When I was a young guy doing it the first time, it was really hard, but this time was way easier, but again, I had the
you've got foundations. You've got,
you've got, it's called experience, I guess. So.
Exactly. And I think, as you keep building out these challenges or other programs that you might be building, I think that is your key, though, and that's your unique feature, I guess, is that you have been through it. Like, you have been to hell and fought your way out of it. Yeah. And it is like you've touched on, and like we've briefly talked about before, is it's great going to see a trainer, but maybe they were always ultra fit and ultra slim. They don't have that same life experience and understanding, right?
The implicit knowledge of how to do it. Yeah.
It's much easier to relate to people who've actually been through it,
Absolutely. 100%.
And so when you're helping people, they're going to be coming to you and they're going to be, 200, 300, 400 pounds, but they're going to go like, no shit, Bob knows how to do this. He's done it. Like, and he's the proof. He's the embodiment.
So one of the things that I do with these, so I do have a handful of coaching clients and it's going pretty well. I'm a coach. I'm not a trainer. So like, I'm not going in there teaching them how to exercise.
Yeah.
I'm not going in. I do talk to them about macros and what they need to do that, but I leave that mostly to first form coaches, but right. I'm a mindset coach and I help them through the obstacles that they're going to encounter along the way and say, hey, if you go down that road, you might fall off that cliff. You might want to be aware of that before you go down there.
Right.
So that's how I help those people. And then I empower them by giving them a platform, just like a platform was given to me.
Right. That makes, yeah. And that's great. So do you use First Form with most of your clients then?
Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Sometimes you have to pay for the app, and I make no money from working with First Form. It's just that they have a platform that I like to. It's already there for me to use.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people, you have to pay for the app, and there's always those people who, have an issue with that. So then I give them guidelines the best I can, but I really can't sit there and give them meal plans and all those things. I'm not a registered dietitian, although
Right.
my dental degree does allow me to do that. I'm just not
No.
comfortable necessarily doing that.
Yeah. No, and that's fair, and I think that's the responsible thing to do.
Right.
And so we always, we were talking about transformation though. And I really think that's the gift that you give to the world is
I appreciate that.
you give people the power to make transformation for themselves in their lives and physically and everything else. And I think what I really love hearing is like, okay, it started first with like, fix my teeth, Bob. And
Yeah. Right.
then, help me with my facial aesthetics. And now you're truly holding people's hands to change their entire lives.
Yeah. That's kind of like that's now a big time why for me in
Mm-hmm.
this phase of my life. Right. My why has actually changed physically now. It's no longer about feeling the pain of divorce and all of that. It's actually um, I was joking in the shred the other day because I ended up falling down the stairs talking to our mutual friend David, texting him while I was walking down the stairs at 4 a.m. because he's always up at that time.
Yeah.
But I ended up falling, missing 4 steps, and smacked my knee on the ground and pretty hard. And I ended up with an injury, bursitis, which sounds like an old person problem, but apparently the doctor that treated me said it's an active person problem, not
Uh-huh.
necessarily an old person problem. But I had something called a closed degloving, where the connective tissue that binds your skin to the muscle separated, and I internally bled under the skin for a period of time and created a lot of swelling, a significant amount of bruising, and a really significant amount of pain because that layer of connective tissue has a lot of nerve endings in it, so it ended up
Right.
hurting a lot. And it's like 3.5 weeks now, and it's still sore. And I was in a compression bandage from my ankle up to my hip for that period of time. Luckily, no surgery. It's just a matter of healing and taking care of it. But I've not been able to train for about 3 or 4 weeks. So that goal of April 18th, April 12th may have to get pushed to the fall show, depending on because I've been able to maintain my physique, but I've not been able to make forward progress over that 3 to 4 weeks. But I was joking in the shred that my new why is because I push the why. In fact, I think Nita had put out an email saying, "Hey, Bob says get a why. This is what it, like everybody
Yeah.
do that." And yeah, so I was joking saying my why has changed and it's to become more resistant to getting dead. So because I was rolling around on the ground saying this is how old people die. So we'll see about that. But yeah, my personal why of keeping myself fit has kind of changed and evolved a little bit. And but the why that I have for creating impact is to really help people in a much bigger way than I could do one on one.
Yeah. No, and I mean that's amazing. How has it changed your life overall? Like you want to live now, you
Yeah,
know? I mean, obviously it's changed your life in like a kabillion different
profound
ways.
ways. Yeah,
You
I was actually
feel
one of our
confidence. I want to know. I
yeah
want to know everything.
yeah. So one of our mutual friends, Andrew,
Yeah.
from Georgia,
Yeah.
he asked me publicly, what is the biggest thing that you noticed after losing 200 pounds? And going from a 64 down to a 34-inch waist is significant. And then, there's also the problem of excess tissue that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So I do think if that was removed, I think I'd probably be closer to a 30-inch waist. So it's
Easily.
significant. Yeah. But anyhow, he asked me what the biggest thing was. And really what came to mind is flying on a plane. It's hugely different. It's a hugely different thing. I used to have to get two extenders when I would sit on a plane, and I'd have to make sure that my daughter or my significant other was sitting next to me my travel partner, so that because I was going to fall into the other seat for sure,
Right.
without a doubt. The way people look at you is different, actually, and it's not something nice to say, but um, when I would be sitting on the plane waiting, for the plane to board, people would be walking down and looking. And when they would have to go and sit in my aisle, you could see their face change, right?
Oh,
It's subconscious, but, you know, it's not that subconscious. You could see their face change and they would get a bit of anxiety, like, oh, I got to sit next to the fat guy. So that was tough. Um, so that was one thing. People don't look at me that way. Now they look at me and smile, which is kind of interesting. And it kind of messes with your head a little bit because you have 20 years of people trying actively not to make eye contact. That's a big deal, right? And then to have people make eye contact and acknowledge that you exist, that's another issue in and of itself. So like these are really small things that people don't
that's not a
necessarily
small
think about.
thing. I mean,
Yeah, but you don't think
that's
about it day to day, right? Until it happens, you don't realize that was happening before, right? So I never realized that people were making eye contact. I wasn't.
right.
I just, I didn't know that I was invisible until I was visible, So that was kind of an interesting thing, and something actually just very, very strange happened. So things still like I'll be walking in the city and walk by a bunch of windows and I'll get a glimpse of myself in my peripheral vision and I say, who's beside me? Like it still doesn't register that I'm looking at the same person in the window. So my brain still hasn't acclimated to that. And it's been 4 years. It's not something that's happened, you know, short. It wasn't a short thing. It was a long process to get there. And my brain just still hasn't, caught up, I guess.
Yeah.
But even the other night, I was actually at a show in New Haven, Connecticut to see Nita actually. And during the meet and greet portion, there's maybe 30, 40 people in the room. And I was called out by her and she said, we have a celebrity in the room. And I wanted the hole in the floor to happen and have me fall right through.
No.
She named me out and she said I was the current body shred champion and this and that. And that was like those kinds of things would have never happened when I was over 400 pounds ever. So that's a big, big difference.
Now, do you think that you carry yourself differently now?
How could I not? Even posturally,
Well,
my posture's even different.
I mean, but
So
this is it. You enter a room feeling a lot better about yourself. You can walk with confidence. I would assume that you maybe struggled with before.
yeah, the funny thing is, was I confident? Maybe a false sense of confidence. Maybe I don't. The thing is, I was very successful in my business. I was
Right.
very successful in my career. I think I was a successful parent,
Yeah,
even given
absolutely.
the obstacles. So the big thing was my body image was probably the one thing that really bothered me, but I made for up in spades. And the my professional development and my family development, I think, kind of counteracted some of that, so it wasn't as bad as it might have been. But I'm just noticing that part was missing now that I'm no longer in that place and I'm carrying myself differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's, yes, acknowledging. Yeah, it's like that retrospective acknowledgement in a way. Like, oh shit,
Yeah,
that
because
was
while you're in it,
missing.
you don't realize that that's happening.
Yeah. Until yeah, that void is filled.
Right. Yeah, it's
That's
just it's been a very interesting ride, let's put it that way.
Do you think that you, if I'm allowed to ask this, sorry, do you think you will have the surgery to remove the excess tissue?
I'm still unclear. I'm still not sure. Um, the amount of recovery time, what I would need would go circumferentially all the way around my midsection, probably my inner thighs, probably a little bit on my chest as well, circumferentially. And the recovery is probably 6 to 8 weeks, is what they've told me. And I don't know that I want to take 6 or 8 weeks off of my mission, work and or what I'm doing here.
Right.
And I don't know how much that really being, the age that I'm at, I don't know how much that really matters anyway.
Right.
Maybe if I was younger and you know, and it bothered me more. It doesn't really bother me as much as I would have thought it did. So,
See,
so maybe not. I don't know, but I'm still undecided.
yeah, no, that's interesting though, because I know I had a tummy tuck, right? To about 2.5 years ago now, and I know it made a massive difference for me in how I feel. And but when I speak with you here, I also think that perhaps I've got in a different way more body dysmorphia. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
maybe. Yeah, I mean, only you could probably tell me that
And
better.
well, and I guess I just hearing about your experiences, it's just really interesting to me to hear the difference. And it is a big surgery.
Yeah,
That's for
it's no
sure.
it's no joke. It's, it's no joke and I've seen lots of before and afters, and at the end of the day, a lot of the before and afters, I'm like, oh, well, was it worth it? I don't know, So you know,
Right.
I, you see some of it, but they, yes, the extra skin's gone, but they look, some of them, the people still look a little disfigured. It doesn't look fantastic. So I'm like, pick your poison, and maybe you'll have a great result. I don't know. And how do you pick the right surgeon? I don't know, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of questions there.
And that's a whole big other topic.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Holy. Yeah, no, and you're right, because I've definitely seen some of the pictures where you're like, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. The skin's gone, but now they look, parts of their anatomy aren't in the right spot. It just looks kind of weird.
Yes. Yep. I
And
think that
I think the more minor it is, probably the more likelihood that you have a good result. Mine is not
yeah.
remotely minor. There's probably at least 15 or 20 pounds of excess skin without a doubt.
Right. Right. And I think she took off like about 5 from just my stomach. And so,
Yeah,
but it's a lot when you think about it. I mean,
it is a huge amount. Yeah, for sure.
but what do you see? Whenever I see you, you're like, you're glowing. You're, do you know what I mean? And I don't mean that in like you know how they talk about like pregnant women or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's all I think about.
Trust me, Bob, I didn't glow
Yeah,
when I was pregnant.
yeah, yeah.
Ooh, no, you look, but it's like you shine happiness and just like inner peace and contentment with life. And
Yeah. So, like, I think for the first time since I was a young child, I think I feel happy. I feel complete. So, like I said before, you know, I was good in my career, was good mental development, good father. I even believe I was a good spouse. I certainly wasn't the perfect spouse. None of us are, right? But looking back, there are things I could have done better, but I don't think, given what I had, I don't hold myself, and I don't even hold my ex-wife like responsible for for that, for what happened. It was two people that
right,
came together and created two beautiful children, and I don't know, like, I think the last part of it was getting my physical health, and quite frankly, I went to the doctor and I was full on type 2 diabetic, right? If you know anything about A1C, it's um, glycosylated hemoglobin is a check of a 3-month blood sugar. It
right.
has how much of your hemoglobin has sugars attached to it, and anything over 6 is considered to be diabetic. And mine was 8.2, so I was full on type 2 diabetic. My latest
Wow.
A1C was 4.9 with no meds. So, like, and my total cholesterol is 90. Like, I can't get any better markers than that, right? And you know, I was seeing a doctor every quarter when I first started this journey, and now, I just had my yearly physical, and he said, "I'll see you in a year." And
It's
and
amazing.
I got very emotional that day. Still getting a little choked up about it now, because I was really sick, you know, and it just goes to show you don't need to go on meds. You just need to get yourself right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that message is put out. And I think, living in a world where convenience comes first, we lose touch of what, because it's not convenient to live the way that I'm living, that's for sure. But I'll never give it back. I'll never get this way of life back.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not convenient. It's definitely, my significant other sometimes, would probably rather go out to dinner sometimes. And, when I bring my little scale, and I
Yeah.
measure out my stuff, I just can't go back. So,
And
um,
I love that too. You have intense prep for when you go away anywhere. You've got your coolers, you bring
yep,
all of everything, your supplements, your meals, whatever you need,
yep. It's
because you put
absurd.
it first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
But it's,
I actually said to Sarah, I said, if anyone watched me, they'd be like, this is a crazy person, with my supplementation protocol, my food, my meal timings, all this stuff. But the thing is, I just don't care, because I know that by doing this, this is what my body needs. And I am not willing to not give my body what it needs anymore, because I
yeah,
just feel good all the time. I mean, my knee is killing me. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. Right.
right.
But my mind and the clarity that I received out of doing this, it's just nothing short of life changing, quite frankly.
And I feel like you have a lot of life left to live.
Yeah. And, I think the quality that I'll live, I'm hoping, God willing, no tragedies happen. I think the quality of it is going to be much different. Actually, our friend David, he and I joke all the time that we're going to be 90 years old in the nursing home, talking about the shred old days, and being the guys running the place. So it's kind of
It's
fun,
true. I can see that actually.
right? It's not far from the truth, right? So,
No, it's definitely not.
right.
So you have a book coming out later this year.
I actually have one coming out later this month.
Your
It's a children's
children's
book.
book.
Children's
Okay, so
book.
do you want to tell us about your children's book first?
Yeah, I can. It's not ready to go out, and I'm not ready to get any pre-orders in yet. But the illustrations were just approved yesterday, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. So we just got to lay everything out. I know you've done a children's book. I have it. It's a fantastic book. We
Oh,
can plug
thanks.
yours too, because I need a hug, right?
Yeah,
So,
I always
um,
need a hug.
yeah. So that's a great children's book. I have it, and so this one's about to come out, and it's basically a story of my inner child meeting me. So it's pretty interesting. I struggled with weight as a kid, and then I got fit, and then I struggled with as weight as an adult and got fit. So, little Bobby meets Dr. G. It's pretty an interesting little read, and hopefully, it'll inspire some kids that may be dealing with childhood obesity, because childhood obesity is a major problem. And I'm hoping that we can kind of break down some of the barriers that children and families have regarding childhood obesity. So can't wait for that to come out. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to rolling it out.
Yeah,
And
and
it'll be
then
available on Amazon and on my website and all of that.
we'll have links all here in the show notes. So don't you worry, and we'll update them as we go. So
Yeah, and
what?
then we have a second book,
Yeah,
the end of the year, which is more for adults, and it's a self-help inspirational book about delving in a little bit more about the story we just went over, about the body shred, and how I ended up winning that thing, and everything that went up to, getting a life that was out of balance. And then what do I do to bring it back into balance? And hopefully it inspires people to take the first step, and it'll give a little bit of resources in there as well of how to go about doing that.
that's amazing. I think everybody would like to have you along for beginning their journey or just continuing it.
Yeah, and they can reach out at any time too. We'll go put those ways to reach me in the notes too, I hope.
Yes, and what are the best ways? Just tell them here first.
Yeah, so I'll tell you here. Instagram at BobGDMD, the number one. This is
Yeah,
BobGDMD1. Bob Gauthier on Facebook,
yeah,
and Apex Lifestyles 1 on YouTube.
perfect. Because Bob has quite the amazing podcast that he has recently launched as well, and you've got all kinds of guests on there as well, different musicians, sports stars, everybody.
Yeah, it's been a big slate. It's actually started to take off considerably, faster than I would have thought, which is pretty cool. So maybe we hit a nerve. But yeah, we've built it from basically 3 weeks ago. We started it, and we're at 3,500 subs now. And one of our reels actually just went up over 103,000 views today. So it's
It's
crazy.
amazing. And now I'm going to
Yeah.
have to benchmark it where it is when this episode gets released.
Yeah. Right. So it's pretty crazy. But I guess we hit a nerve. I guess there's something about, the story of living your best life and trying to become fully integrated. And I think there's some, interest in that. And I think that's pretty cool. And we're
Absolutely.
also, on Spotify and Apple and all those other
So you can
podcast
stream
services.
Bob anywhere.
Anywhere. Yeah.
If
But
it's online, you'll find him.
right. Right.
That's amazing. Well, Bob, I have to say thank you for being with us today. You have inspired so many people within our group, outside of the group. I see it in your everyday life. Are just, you're taking the world by storm, and I feel like you're finally stepping into who you were always meant to be.
I really appreciate that, Ashley. And it's a distinct pleasure to come on your. We've been talking about it for a long time, and I'm really glad we were able to make this work. And yeah, the whole journey has been awesome. And the best thing I can say, I've met a lot of the people in the Body Shred.
Yeah.
I actually have flown all over the country meeting people,
Yes, you
and
have.
the fact of the matter is, I have made some of the most indelible friendships, even though they're only online friendships. That like when we meet in real life, it's like we're friends our whole lives. So, and I really value the friendship that you and I have built.
Me too.
And I value all of it. And thank you, Ashley, for being there. Even when it was hard at the end of Body Shred 5, I know you were like, talking me off the ledge, wanting to go and grab a pizza or something when I was like completely starving at the end. But
You were.
yeah, like just it's been an amazing ride, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, and we'll talk soon, and make sure you are following Bob and get ready to check out all his books and everything he's got coming up. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast. If you're looking for more, head to healthymetalhippie.com and let's connect. Until next time, wishing you a magical week. See you later.